Breaking news. The atmosphere is heating up behind the scenes with the Philadelphia Eagles, and I've got some very important updates to bring directly to you. We know the Eagles are hungry to get back to the Super Bowl, and for that to happen, Nick Sirianni will need every ounce of talent and depth from this roster. But before we go deeper into today's developments, make sure you've already hit that like button if you're a true Philadelphia Eagles fan. If you've been riding with this team through thick and thin, especially if you've been a fan for more than 20 years, drop a comment right now. Go Eagles. My heart bleeds green and white. Now, let's get into what's happening. A little bit of good news, a little bit of bad news, and a lot to unpack as the Birds gear up for their huge Week 2 matchup against the Kansas City Chiefs in a Super Bowl 59 rematch at Arrowhead Stadium. The biggest story right now revolves around Dallas Goedert, who is dealing with yet another injury. Reports from Elliott Shore Parks of 94 WWeb confirm that Goedert has suffered a knee sprain. His status for Sunday is uncertain, and while it's not believed to be a long-term setback, this could still impact the offense in a major way. Goedert didn't practice on Wednesday or Thursday, and the uncertainty is frustrating given his history. Let's be honest here, Dallas Goedert is one of the most complete tight ends in the NFL. Drafted in the second round back in 2018, he has built a reputation as not only a reliable pass catcher, but also as one of the league's best blocking tight ends. He can keep drives alive, he can create mismatches in the red zone, and he's essential to the run game. But the one thing he can't seem to do consistently is stay healthy. Since 2019, Goedert has missed 23 games due to a mix of hamstring and knee problems. Last season alone, he missed 7 games. And this durability concern is exactly why the Eagles hesitated to give him the long-term contract extension he wanted heading into 2025. Make no mistake, Jalen Hurts has gone to bat for Goedert. Hurts values him not just as a target, but as a critical part of the offensive structure. That's why it's so painful for the Eagles to face yet another moment of uncertainty with him. Think back to Week 1 against the Cowboys. Goedert hauled in 7 catches on 7 targets, only 44 yards total, but each reception was meaningful. They extended drives, they moved the chains, and they created momentum when A.J. Brown and DeVonta Smith couldn't find space downfield. Without him, the Eagles lose that underneath safety valve that Hurts relies on in crunch situations. And here's another layer. It's not just about Goedert's production. When he's not on the field, the backup simply can't replicate his impact, especially in the blocking game. Grant Calcaterra, for instance, hasn't shown he can be that guy. The result? The Eagles run headfirst into heavy boxes, and the offense becomes far less versatile. It's not just losing a weapon, it's losing an entire dimension of the attack. On the flip side of the ball, this Sunday the Chiefs might be getting some unexpected help. Wide receiver Xavier Worthy, who was expected to be sidelined with a separated shoulder after a brutal collision with Travis Kelce, has surprisingly returned to practice. He's wearing a brace, but the expectation is that he could be active against the Eagles. That would give Patrick Mahomes another dangerous vertical threat, especially with Rashee Rice suspended. Just the presence of Worthy forces defenses to respect the deep ball. And you can bet Sean Desai's defense will have his hands full if Worthy suits up. But while the Goedert situation is troubling, another storyline is swirling around the wide receiver core, particularly A.J. Brown. Against the Cowboys, Brown was targeted only once, catching a single pass for 8 yards. On paper, that's shocking for a player who's been all-pro every year in Philadelphia, a top 3 wide receiver in the league, and a nightmare for defenses in man coverage. So what happened? Brown explained it himself on Jordan Schultz's podcast. The Cowboys didn't even give him a single man-to-man rep. They played zone all night, bracketed him constantly, and committed to making sure A.J. Brown did not beat them. That's not about Brown being a decoy or being hurt. It's simply about defensive strategy. And while his stat sheet looked barren, that lone 8-yard catch came in a crucial moment, helping to set up a short yardage situation that moved the chains. This is the reality of football. Sometimes a star player gets taken away by scheme, but that opens opportunities for others. And in this case, Dallas Goedert became that go-to option underneath, again underscoring how important his presence is on this roster. Of course, in classic national media fashion, Colin Cowherd decided to stir things up. On the herd, Cowherd suggested the Eagles might look to trade A.J. Brown, even throwing out the New England Patriots as a possible destination. Let's call this what it is, nonsense. Trading away Brown would be a catastrophic move. Since arriving in Philly, the Eagles have averaged nearly 28 points per game with him on the field. Their record with Brown? 38-10. Without him? 2-3 with points per game plummeting to just over 16. That's not a coincidence. A.J. Brown changes the complexion of the offense. In fact, his impact goes all the way back to the Super Bowl, where he caught a critical touchdown and had another deep ball wiped out by a questionable penalty. He's not just a star, he's a proven difference maker in the biggest moments. Howie Roseman knows this. Trading him isn't just unlikely, it's unthinkable. So here's where we are. Dallas Goedert's availability is in serious doubt. A.J. Brown is still the centerpiece of this passing game, no matter what the national talking heads say. And Kansas City could be more dangerous than expected with Xavier Worthy's surprising return. The Eagles are 1-0, heading into one of the biggest tests of their season early on.
Now I want to know, what do you, the fans, think about this? How concerned are you about Dallas Goedert's durability and his future with the team? And when we talk about Dallas Goedert's future, this is where the conversation gets really complicated. On one hand, he's proven to be one of the best all-around tight ends in football, a guy who can dominate as a blocker and still be a reliable option in the passing game. On the other hand, the availability issue just doesn't go away. Since 2019, 23 games missed. That's nearly a season and a half of football, and for an organization that's trying to maximize a very real Super Bowl window, it raises legitimate concerns about long-term investment. The Eagles had the chance to extend him heading into 2025, and they made the calculated decision not to. That wasn't because of talent, it was because of trust. Can you trust Dallas Goedert to be there when you need him most? Think about how this plays out if he can't go on Sunday. Without Goedert, Jalen Hurts loses his most reliable underneath option. Against a defense like Kansas City's, that could be huge. When A.J. Brown is double-teamed and DeVonta Smith is drawing attention downfield, Goedert is the release valve, the guy who can turn a short completion into a manageable third down, the guy who can chip block before slipping out into open space. Without him, that responsibility shifts to players like Grant Calcaterra, who simply hasn't proven he can shoulder that role. It makes the offense more predictable and more limited. Now, on the flip side, let's talk about A.J. Brown, because this has been the lightning rod of the week. His one-catch performance against Dallas has become the talk of the league. And yet, if you really listen to what Brown himself said, it wasn't about him being hurt, or benched, or even phased out of the game plan. It was all about defensive strategy. The Cowboys sold out to take him away, running zone coverage the entire night, bracketing him to make sure Hurts had to look elsewhere. That's what great defenses do, they pick their poison. And in this case, it meant Dallas Goedert was the one to benefit with 7 receptions. What makes this so fascinating is the reaction outside of Philadelphia. Colin Cowherd's take about trading Brown to the Patriots wasn't just wild, it was disconnected from reality. Trading Brown would make 0 sense, not just statistically but strategically. The Eagles are in win-now mode, and Brown is their most explosive weapon. Since his arrival, they're averaging almost 28 points per game with him, and just 16 without him. That's the kind of drop-off that destroys seasons. In fact, it's not a stretch to say A.J. Brown is one of the primary reasons the Eagles have been in contention the last couple of years. So here's the bigger picture. You've got a team with championship aspirations, but key questions loom. Can Dallas Goedert stay healthy long enough to earn the trust of the front office? Will A.J. Brown silence the noise with a bounce-back performance in Week 2? And can Jalen Hurts continue to develop as the type of quarterback who thrives even when defenses sell out to take away his top options? Adding another wrinkle is the Chiefs' situation. Xavier Worthy's potential return changes the dynamics of this matchup. A rookie with blazing speed, he can stretch the field vertically in a way that forces defenses to adjust. Pair him with Travis Kelce, and suddenly Mahomes has exactly what he needs to test Philadelphia's secondary deep and over the middle. This isn't the version of the Chiefs that limped out of Brazil after losing to the Chargers. This could be a much more dynamic unit ready to put the Eagles' defense on its heels. But let's not forget, this game is bigger than just Week 2. It's a measuring stick. The Eagles are facing the very team they fell short against on the biggest stage. Super Bowl 59 is still fresh in everyone's mind, and while this game doesn't erase that loss, it does give Philadelphia a chance to send a message, not just to Kansas City, but to the entire NFL. If the Birds can go into Arrowhead and leave with a win, it solidifies their standing as one of the top contenders once again. So here's the takeaway. Everything comes down to execution, health, and mentality. Dallas Goedert's absence would be a huge blow, But if Jalen Hurts, A.J. Brown, and DeVonta Smith step up, the Eagles have enough firepower to keep pace with anyone. The defense, meanwhile, will need to find a way to limit Mahomes even if Worthy plays, and that means discipline, tackling, and avoiding breakdowns against big plays. And that brings me to you. What's your confidence level going into this game? Do you believe the Eagles have enough to beat Kansas City even if Dallas Goedert can't go? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more updates. Hit the like button, and stay tuned, because the video on your screen right now dives deeper into this matchup and what the Eagles must do to walk out of Arrowhead with a win.